Ever feel like you're running faster than ever, yet somehow you're still standing in the exact same place? Welcome to The Great Heist, an investigation into the uncomfortable truth of why we are earning less, owing more, and stressing out, even while being told we are in the midst of a historic bull run. The reality is that the entire financial industry, alongside some governments across the world, is complicit in rigging the economy against everyone except the rich and powerful. This video aims to shed light on the practices they would rather keep in the dark. Think you know how money works? Prepare to realize you've been misled. If the stock market is at an all time high, why is your bank account hitting all time lows? Since 2009, we've experienced one of the greatest extended bull runs in history, yet millennials and Gen Z are more likely to experience anxiety, stress, and depression than any generation before. We are surrounded by a climate crisis, a housing crisis, and a debt crisis, while we're told to just stop being lazy. If the economy is doing so well, why does it feel like society is struggling to survive? The answer isn't that you're not working hard enough, it's that you're on a treadmill you weren't meant to win. You've been taught to blame the carrot, but have you ever stopped to look at the person holding the stick? We are conditioned to blame the carrot, money, or our own perceived laziness for our financial struggles. But the system is designed to keep you on a treadmill, not to let you catch the carrot. Like a donkey dangled with a carrot, no matter how hard you run, as long as you stay in your lane, you will never reach the level of wealth you're promised. We are being distracted from looking deeply into the the real cause, the handler who designed the trap. To understand the trap, you first have to realize that money itself isn't even real. Did you know that the money for your mortgage or student loan was literally created out of thin air the second you signed the papers? Money is not real. It is mostly digital inflation created by private for profit businesses we call banks. Banks create roughly 97% of all money in circulation. When you take out a loan, the bank doesn't deduct that money from its balance sheet. They simply type digits into a computer. They take no personal liability, yet they charge you interest on money that didn't exist until you ask for it. If money is born from debt, it means your debt is someone else's most valuable treasure. Your biggest financial burden is actually the banking sector's favorite paycheck. It's an uncomfortable truth. 70% to 85% of a typical bank's assets are made up of your debt, mortgages, student loans, and credit cards. The current economy actually requires a high percentage of the population to be in debt because debt is the fuel that stimulates financial markets to generate profits. In fact, your total financial freedom would literally bankrupt the entire banking sector. This rigged system wasn't always the norm. It was triggered by a smoking gun back in 1971. What if I told you the middle class began to die on a single day in 1971? This was the year US President Richard Nixon ended the gold standard, turning money into a fiat currency backed only by debt. Before 1971, worker salaries were highly correlated with the value and productivity they brought to a company. After this great decoupling, productivity continued to soar while hourly compensation stagnated for decades, with the difference going straight to the top 1%. But where exactly does that money go first? Follow the champagne fountain. Why do the rich get richer during inflation while you're left choosing between groceries and gas? This is known as the cantillon effect. When new money is injected into the system, it enters through banks and corporations first, allowing the wealthy to buy assets like stocks and real estate at low prices. By the time that money trickles down to the average worker, prices have already skyrocketed. Your savings are eroded, and your purchasing power is reduced before you ever see a cent of that new money. And while you're losing purchasing power, the banks are using your money to run a global casino. Welcome to the world's largest casino, where the stakes are your mortgage, your savings, and your retirement. Banks have turned the economy into a gambling hall where they win regardless of the outcome. They take a single asset like a house and bundle it into mortgage backed securities, MBS, and collateralized debt obligations, CDOs, to sell and resell. They even created synthetic CDOs, essentially bets on those original bets, often using regular people's savings without them ever being aware. How massive is this gambling ring? It's bigger than the entire world's production. The entire world produces $100 trillion in value. So how can there be $750 trillion worth of bets on the table? The derivatives market, which consists of financial products derived from other assets, bets on bets, is valued at a staggering $750 trillion. The system is leveraged to an insane degree, up to 25.1 in traditional banks, and even higher in the shadows. This creates a massive systemic risk where the more the banks sell, the greater the threat to the entire global system. And that's just the part of the iceberg we are allowed to see. Beneath the surface of the official economy lies a dark $320 trillion iceberg of unregulated debt. Beyond regular banks lies the shadow banking system, organizations that act like banks but operate without regulatory scrutiny. These institutions hold massive liabilities that do not appear on standard government reports. The size of this industry is estimated to be at least half the size of the global economy alone, creating a systemic risk that is both invisible and terrifyingly large. When this invisible system crashes, the elites have a plan. Do you? Ever wonder why the government has billions for bank bailouts but nothing for your student loans? It's called socialism for the rich, rugged capitalism for the poor. Corporations and banks make risky bets and pay themselves massive executive bonuses when things go well. But when a crisis like a 2008 or 2020 hits, they demand taxpayer bailouts. For example, airlines spent 96% of their free cash on stock buybacks to enrich shareholders, then demanded billions in public money the moment the pandemic hit. Let's look at the scorecard of this heist over the last 50 years. The math confirms the heist. We are working harder than ever to own significantly less. Since the 1970s, median house prices and CEO pay have both exploded by 1,500%, while the working class's share of income has effectively plummeted by 76% in real terms. A $1,000 investment today gets you 90% less stock ownership power than it would have 50 years ago. Today, the world's top 1% owns nearly half of all global wealth. This isn't just a trend, it's a Jenga tower that is being hollowed out from the bottom. How many blocks can the Fed pull from the bottom before the entire tower of billionaire wealth collapses? Infinite growth on finite resources is impossible. We are currently extracting value from working class purchasing power to prop up asset bubbles at the top. When the tower eventually wobbles, the only options left for the elites are a recession, a currency collapse, or a proposed great reset. But what does their reset actually look like? It looks like corporate feudalism. Why are billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg building self sustaining nuclear underground bunkers? They know the current model is unsustainable. If the current trajectory continues, we face a future of corporate feudalism. This involves the consolidation of agriculture and energy into the hands of a few megacore and essential services like housing being turned into subscriptions. Universal basic income may be offered as a pacifier to a displaced workforce while we give over even more power to those who caused the issues in the first place. The situation is dire, but there is still a way to unplug from the matrix. The system relies on two things, your ignorance and your debt. It's time to take both away from them. To fight back, we must educate ourselves through financial literacy, resist by becoming self-reliant and developing valuable skills, and reject the urge to blame ourselves for a game that was rigged from the start. And the truth about the free market is that it is becoming increasingly less free. So take advantage of what you can before it's too late. The best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago. The second best time is now. The choice is yours. Stay on the treadmill or start planting your tree.